Hi, everyone. Live from the Nevada high desert, overlooking the Luxor Pyramid. This is Ronald Ingram, your rebel banker futurist. A lot of really exciting events unfolding here for us with Brock and Spock and neobanks, and it's just been very hectic. So it may not feel like it because I haven't been online quite as much, but that's only because I've been going from meeting to meeting and making deals and a lot of real exciting things happening. So, and I think so. I've looked at everything, and I have certain confidentiality obligations, but I think I can share a few things that I think people will find interesting and encouraging about what we have happening with Spock. So first, we have had discussions that I've alluded to in the past, very vaguely, but because I don't like to get ahead of the news, or I'd like to avoid hype, and so I like to wait until things start to get tangible before I start talking too much about things that we're working on, and also sometimes there are confidentiality requirements, which I always respect. And if anyone ever tells me anything in confidence, I'll keep that in confidence. So it goes for everybody, and it goes for partners that I'm talking about. And on the other hand, I have a strong urge and feel it very important to be as transparent as possible about all the things that I'm working on and that are happening. So striking the balance here, I think I can at this point talk about some developments with Exodus, which is a company that acquired an interest in one of my other companies a while back, a couple of years back, and so have a bit of history there, and I've been having some very exciting conversations, and they have indicated that they're interested in discussing most of the things that I've put on the table. And in fact, it's interesting because I was reaching out to them as well, and they were reaching out to me at kind of the same time. So, a real interesting synchronicities there. And so, of course, Exodus is one of the bigger wallets out there with millions of customers, and we're talking about development on a number of different fronts. The main thing, I think I'll just stick with the main thing, which was also the fairly simple thing, and that's just to get Spock in their wallet as a fully supported asset in their wallet. So that's the baseline, and I'm actually talking with multiple different departments about different things. So I already have their API documentation, and our team is looking over that, and we're developing our own APIs. But first, let's see if there's anything else on Exodus that I can, or much that I would like to share. But I'll think that leave it at that, so that we've gone well past the conversation stage and are into documentation sharing, and we have a number of meetings. There's been a lot of conversation and more meetings coming up. So these things take a little bit of time. They don't move. Real life doesn't move at the speed of meme coin hype. All right, a utility coin is very different than a meme coin, which is a story and an image, essentially. A utility coin, we're building a real business that has real revenue and has very sophisticated technology behind it that we're aiming to invert the banking system with. So you've got to anticipate that there's going to be, it takes some time, a little bit of time to develop this technology, and we're moving very quickly in terms of any time span that would be deemed normal or even fast in the non-meme world, let's just say. So that is, and so I'm still sticking with our timelines, and in fact, I've been making really good progress on development with POCK, and we may have our own, you could call it essentially a wallet, but it's a new paradigm. I don't like us to be tied into the language and paradigms and models of the meme industry and the crypto industry even. And I'll always encourage everybody that I'm working with to try to explain things in plain language as often as possible, instead of utilizing jargon all the time. And sometimes jargon is necessary, and you have trade terms there's really no other word in the English language to succinctly describe what it is that you're doing. I understand that. However, fundamentally what you're trying to do with a wallet, right? One of the key things is just to acquire that a particular token and other tokens, and to transact and send tokens to other people, exchange value. Those are some of the basic things, and some of the basic things are very onerous to do right now. So it's with newbies that have been bringing in droves into POCK, they often shake their heads like, why is this so hard? Why can't I just pull up my credit card and buy some crypto? Well, soon you will be. I actually have last night successful internal testing with creating a system. I've got all the component parts, and I've tested it end to end, and to facilitate just a simple purchase of crypto instantly with a credit card, very, very low friction to get that initial entry point. And it could be larger dollars too. Any credit card, wouldn't be limits like $500 or $1,000, and those types of limits that we've been seeing with funding, even from Coinbase and other wallets when newbies are opening new wallets. So this is quite key, I think. So this is facilitated by POCK. So someone to be able to just buy POCK with a credit card and a debit card directly through our platform without any intermediaries, and have that transaction logged. I also, as part of the testing, I finally got my blood work back for my latest blood work for my biohacking efforts, and they were very, very good results. Biological age comes back at 41.8 years, so that's pretty good. If you know the delta, that's actually, I don't know anybody that's had that dramatic of a improvement in their biological age. Now, one of the things though that I encountered is there are many issues with the measurement of how biological age is measured. Now, it's much better than it's ever been before, but a lot of biohackers are using a 2018 model that developed by Dr. Levin that was quite groundbreaking for its time. But like a lot of things, it's based on average men, average women, according to age and generally people, historically, especially, and this is changing very rapidly, but degeneration happens with age, and diseases and mortality rates go up with age, and many of the markers that are associated with that are calibrated in such a way that don't really capture outliers, biohackers that are working on not being normal, but being beyond normal, being extraordinary, achieving extraordinary levels of health, and aiming with really high longevity goals. Now you may be wondering, how does this connect? Well, how does this connect to POCK? Hang with me for a second here. I'll explain exactly. So I did some deep research, and keeping in mind, I'm always talking about banking, but I know as much about biohacking as I do about banking, and if not even more. I studied with some of the top people in the world in orthomolecular medicine, and East and that's on the Western side, and on the Eastern side, Mantek Chia and Kung Fu and Qigong and energy-based modalities and physical regimens that would help that exercise and develop the body in ways that aren't well understood, and have huge impacts on longevity. Fascinating topic, and once we have Brock and Spock, over a buck, I'll be able to spend more time on that. But because my blood work finally came back, and because of all the issues with measurement, I looked at some of the things that were used in the measurements. And for example, glucose is one of the key biomarkers that are used to determine biological age. And that's kind of silly when you have there are better markers than glucose for measuring insulin resistance, and things that glucose measures can be measured better with other biomarkers. So I've created this. I created a new bio-age calculator, and you could just feed in your blood work and a DEXA scan, which is a key piece, because so glucose was a marker that's it doesn't make a lot of sense to use it as a rigorous control, as a rigorous marker for biohackers. So, but also there's other things like creatinine. Creatinine increases if you are, as I am, if you have high levels of T, and my T actually dropped a bit. I was over 1500, which is kind of professional athlete, professional bodybuilder levels, and so that was quite an extraordinary range already, and that's an area where I'm a real outlier, and I'd really like to have more studies done as to how I think I know how I'm doing, but I think it's worthy of study, because it has a big impact on men's health and longevity. So the reason that testosterone is not included at all in biomarkers for determining longevity, because testosterone, if it's taken like as an injection or as patches, it does not indicate, it is not correlated with longer life, longer health span. And but naturally generated testosterone, if you're able to get high levels generated naturally, as I have done, I've never had a patch or taken an injection of any kind. So in that situation, that is a very powerful marker for longevity, which is completely ignored in all of the bioage markers. And so that is something worth recalibrating. So creatinine and testosterone are often like creatinine. If it goes up normally in the normal population, that's a negative biomarker. But in somebody who's increasing their muscle mass, as it's proven that I increased my muscle mass by 4% and decreased my fat by about 4% over a 4-month period of time. And so with that plus testosterone, that means my creatinine has to go up because I'm regenerating new tissue, new muscles. And so that is more like, so my creatinine levels are more like an athlete's would be, and which you don't expect someone at my chronological age. So really interesting, but I won't go into any further than to say that I developed this really cool calculator, which I'm going to share with everyone practically for free. I think it's pretty fun and compelling. You can just feed your reports in there. It parses it and generates a really maybe the most accurate biological age measurement that you've seen, and it's so easy. And I haven't seen it, and I had to build it because there was nothing else out there quite like it. That was not, there are some expensive things, and they're not necessarily as accurate as this. Anyway, I developed this, and so I'm and the way that people will use this is I will initially pre July 24th, I'm going to give people POCK to try it out, and then for every calculation that they do, they'll use some POCK, and then they can subscribe, and the subscription will use POCK. And that's an example, again, of how POCK is the utility token for intellectual property developed by neobanks, and Chiron is part of that whole conglomerate. So there's something I didn't expect to get to, but I was really in the flow, and it was just going, and I built this whole really cool calculator. I think I'll do a screenshot and share it with you, share it with everyone on the X Prize community that I have. There's only a few people on there, so I should stop talking about it. But it's I'm very passionate about it because it really has the potential to add a lot, not only to each individual, not only to our health and our enjoyment of life and well-being, so that we can enjoy all the money that we're making for a longer period of time and share it with those that we love, and do and support things that we believe in. But we can, we can really. I did a paper. If you look back on Substack and you look back on my X articles, I did a paper that shows that trillions, trillions of dollars could be added to the gross domestic product of this nation. Forget AI and unlocking the potential of banks to be able to lend more effectively to innovators and creators and all the things that I usually talk about. But unlocking health and wellness in America, making America even adding just 1 year of health span to on average for Americans could have $1 trillion plus. And I have the exact math broken out. And I won't say that I'm actually being conservative in the numbers that I'm sharing, because there's a bigger number than that, but you have to kind of understand the complex math behind it. So the simple way of saying it is that it's over $1 trillion annual impact potentially to GDP. If pardon me, if we would invest more in health. Yeah, so I developed the whole ledger and the payments and the machine-to-machine commerce component for that as well, and the X402 payment infrastructure. I didn't actually test that today or yesterday, but the credit card piece and the issuance and the debits and credits for SPOCK and tracking that like you would in a wallet. All of that is complete and pretty slick looking. So I'll share that with everyone soon. And it's practically free. I think charge one SPOCK, so less than half a penny per calculation, and actually nothing, because I will give people SPOCK up front, a small amount, like 100 SPOCK, to try it out and test it and be part of the testing that want to participate. So enough on that, but that's pretty cool. And so not only have I been receiving APIs, but we have an API as well, and I've been seeing that we have had a meeting today with another company and a smaller local company. That's promising, and there's a number of companies like this. I'll mention names as conversations get more serious, but there seems like a lot of apps out there that provide kind of coaching solutions and things like that for people that are coming onto the market. And of course, a financial advisor, Brock, it would be a big add to that stack for any kind of financial tool, but any kind of life, personal development tools and life coaching tools. All of those things will benefit. It can be greatly enhanced, it seems like. And this wasn't an opportunity that I was looking for, but when I'm out there talking to people in all of these tech meetings that I've had, Tech Alley and Crypto Monday, which is a huge organization, by the way, that I've been getting very involved with, and have another meeting coming up with them very soon. I'm going to tell you something about some other opportunities that have come out of that, but there's so many opportunities, and I'm finding out new opportunities for SPOCK that are right on in alignment. So not just building out from what we're doing. There's no pivots here. We're just exactly on plan as we've talked about from the beginning. It's just now the plan, more and more details are unfolding as you watch, as you participate in this, and they will continue. There's a long, exciting roadmap ahead of us. But so anyway, through an API, people will be able to access Brock, and that will bring Brock to even larger audiences. And what is Brock fueled by? SPOCK, right? So all of this ties into the token and drives utilization of SPOCK, and therefore and burn SPOCK and SPOCK buybacks from neobanks as neobanks generates revenue. All of the things are like a flywheel that generates more and more momentum for SPOCK. But we're just about to hit a new level. I think we've been plateauing a bit, and the types of investors that I'm talking to now, they're a little bit slower to move, but because they do due diligence, but they do much larger amounts. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars often. So that really, it makes the scale. It's not like an incremental increase that we would see that you see when organizations go through a transition like that. It's not incremental. It's a scaling factor. So like 10x, 100x. And so that's why a few people have been asking me if I still think we can achieve the goals that I was talking to when we were racing towards 7 million. And yeah, absolutely. The really rapid rise that we had to get to a 7 million, that was like unheard of. And but that's what happens when we get the message out. So other ways that the message is getting out, I've been invited to be on a television program and play it may even be recurring by the president, the new president of a television studio, a regional one, and that is based in Vegas, but is expanding their reach uh, uh, more nationally. And part of the reason that they reached out to me was the article that I wrote about the Vegas banking zone, and that's getting a lot of buzz here in Vegas, and from city commissioners and officials to uh, the crypto community and the tech community, and also from the media, apparently. So this article that I wrote got some media attention, and so the president, who I known not for a long time, but who has been, he reached out to me and asked me to be involved in this show that they have starting up. So that, and there's some fairly big backers behind this, like Sony. uh, so we're talking about potential hundreds of millions of viewers, and the topic is the future of banking, and I've helped make that more of a relevant conversation for Vegas, because I'm talking about turning Vegas into Monaco West and making it a global banking center to diversify the economy from gaming to from beyond just gaming to banking. And there's a lot happening in tech as people move from California. There's a lot of activity, a lot of buzz in Vegas in the startup community, and these events are growing. There's a company called Tensor, which is one of the fastest growing multi-billion-dollar companies in America. They're based in Vegas. I'm meeting all of these people, and I've secured a theater for the launch of POCK. So that face that you saw, I don't want to manage expectations, but I think that this is a high probability. Been told yes, okay, by the decision makers. So talking about launching Brock on huge TV screens. And it's interesting how this seems to be a repeating pattern, and I've never really looked for it, but I don't see anybody else doing this. But the same thing happened 22 years ago with BuddhaBot. It ended up being on these massive 24-foot screens at the Montreal Grand Prix. Images of my BuddhaBot were there, and then I developed a couple of other more business specific bots as well to make my job easier as a product development executive in the financial services industry many years ago. And I because I knew how to, I created a conversational agent named after one of the loan products that I developed, and that was the feature of a national conference that congregated in Las Vegas. Even though I didn't live in Las Vegas at that time, but as a lot of conferences do, they had their national conference in Vegas, and again, it was a 24-foot screen with for ease of branding, and also for continuity, so that they knew that they were learning about this product from me, although an avatar of me, but to have the connection, it was modeled after me. It was more cartoonish. The next version, I think, is going to be of Brock that we're going to see is going to be even slightly more realistic, more animated. And that's just kind of fun for the launch. I think that's going to get a lot of attention being launched in a theater on a big screen. So that's shaping up nicely. And then then some other Yeah. So then here's another piece that is pretty exciting. That and on the merchant acquisition side. So many of you may remember if you've looked me up on Grokpedia. I was a founder of a company that processed digital credit card transactions for early in the development of the digital economy. Merchants found it very difficult to sell their wares online because they couldn't accept credit cards online. And I see the same pattern repeating actually with crypto now. And this is why I'm getting some traction with some people on this level as well. So there's interest in merchants and resorts accepting crypto, and that may involve POCK or POCK partners. And so I won't say it's that part of it is still a bit amorphous, other than to say that there's an interest in at the resort level for resorts to be accepting crypto transactions. And there's been some of this that's happened already, but I'm going to be playing a key role in that. And I've had conversations with one of the big resorts at one of the Crypto Monday meetings, which is a great event that we have on the penthouse suite, the Legacy Lounge at Circa, and it's every Monday. So I'll be there next Monday, and there are calls now that I've been invited to, and so I'm going to start to be on more and more podcasts, getting a lot more views. So, but you all heard it here first. Then with this live stream that we will that you hopefully enjoy. I certainly do. So, and I appreciate everyone that spends time listening and learning and supporting POCK and all that we're doing. So I told you that I was going to send out the national home ownership proposal, and so I sent out a new one, a new letter. Just what was it? The other day, 2 days ago, to Tim Scott's office and Senate Banking Committee. A very simple strategy to get people in homes, and it involves the Interstellar Bank, and it involves POCK, and so we want to be at the center of that, and so we will. So I've made that public now, the letter, and we'll just continue pushing that forward. And I think as we have larger partners and more money behind us, that also really helps increase our awareness of what we're doing. So we're still you're very early. There's only a handful of people, less, 1,000 people, I think, have purchased POCK to date, and on these live streams, it's growing steadily, but still a small group. So this is the marketing kind of starts on July 24th, and we'll continue to build from there as we add more and more things to POCK and the Interstellar Bank. That's a really long-term project. We're talking years before all of that fully comes together. Although I have interest from nations, I have a whole nation say, "Hey, what about this country as a duplicate of the Vegas banking zone?" And it's really easy for a state or a nation to be part of this project. Really, all they need to do is endorse it and support it, and we do all the heavy lifting, and just have to. It's really reducing the amount of involvement of government. That's the essence of this, and so government's there to enforce contracts. Essentially, is the is the main role of government in our view in this model. And for everything else, we try to approach things with a blank slate and build in terms of utility, what really makes sense. And sometimes I see, and this is a really different, it's a subtle, but and sometimes the results may not appear that differently, but this philosophy and how we develop everything has a profound effect on the user experience in the end. So because regulations change and eventually dumb regulations fall away, and hopefully, and right now there's a push on to reduce the number of regulations faster than they increase. Sometimes there are regulations just adding and not subtracting. We're subtracting regulations right now faster than we're adding them. And so in this kind of an environment, it makes sense really to build with utility first. What makes sense using the technology that's available today, not what happened 100 years ago or 50 years ago or even 20 years ago. Today, using the tools that are available to us today, using the resources and real estate that is off planet even, to rethink how credit is handled, how risk is handled, how we do credit scoring, and giving people more ownership of their credit data. And also, I believe that banking should be a fundamental right, not a privilege. It should be a fundamental right. It should be written into the Constitution, I think. Everybody, because you can't, in the modern world, you can't really survive very comfortably without money, right? And you take away people's dignity if they are relying on handouts. So especially when those handouts are based on fraud, and you're incentivizing. Some of these fraudsters are smart. Usually they're not. And they all eventually get caught. It eventually catches up to them. So they use that intelligence to build and innovate and create, how much better would society be? So we can dream. There will always be bad actors out there. However, everyone has a fundamental. If everyone has a right to eat, they can't eat unless they have money. And so access to money and being able to hang on to your money and have privacy and security, regardless of how much or how little that you have, to have control of your assets. I think this is a fundamental right that needs to be as important as, and more important than many other things. So and also people are smart, and if they are given more responsibility, they become smarter. If they are forced to innovate, they do. And necessity is the mother of invention is literally a famous axiom, and it's true. So we don't like it when we're forced to do it, but sometimes the world changes and the singularity economy is coming. And so this is something that I've been talking to regulators, and there is still a lot of fear out there, but it really, it's only scary if you don't embrace it and embrace change and figure it. And there's tremendous opportunities for those that are innovators and creators, and to be able to create more quickly than ever before. And that's what the ZPE is all about, the zero person enterprise, that is, of which POCK is the first biggest proponent and facilitator of that. to be your key, your number two, if you will, in the in the starship, and in the Starship Enterprise. And great name for a starship, Enterprise. So you need to have, everybody will, I think, will need to have, will certainly benefit from having Brock. And Brock's sworn goal is to support each user that adopts Brock, that subscribes to Brock. Brock's job will be to preserve their assets, to preserve their self-sovereignty. And Brock will take direction and preserve your secrets, preserve your assets, protect your secrets. And that's what Brock's job will be. And so that will help people as well to have the enhance their self-sovereignty. That's what Brock is there to give people firepower to protect their intellectual firepower, to protect their assets and grow their assets and contribute even more. It's not a greed thing. This is a tremendous asset to the community. And I'm explaining to, somebody who has autism, let's say, somebody who has autism and may be socially awkward and not really like being around people, but they have a rich interior life and vivid imagination and intellect that is, they're neurodivergent, in some cases also genius. And well, everyone is a genius, right? I always say, and it's true, because genius is the essence of who you are. It's your soul, your character. So, but a genius in the intellectual sense, many of those, I think we know, who are on the spectrum. Elon Musk himself says that he's on the spectrum, and they're imbalanced, but sometimes they bring tremendous value. Some of our greatest artists and innovators, and there's truth to the stereotype of the mad scientists and those folks who often don't fit in very well into regular society. Brock and using AI, and Brock is the manifestation and convergence of these technologies to develop, to empower these outsiders and outliers as well, to maybe do something that has never been possible before, to using technology to further amplify their strengths and their intellect and mitigate their weaknesses and enable them to generate big businesses. Remember, the goal of Brock is 100 FTEP. That's a lofty goal. Getting to $1, getting Spock to $1 is easier maybe than getting Brock to 100, but it's already at 15, I would say. And last night, and it goes up and down a little bit. Last night, everything was yesterday, everything was working so smoothly. I created something that would have taken a team a month to build, but my team and I were able to build it in a couple of days. Of course, a lot of the intellectual work and research and everything had already been done, but to pull it all together into the code and create this quite slick looking app, that took no time at all. And it's a very cool product on its own. So that's an example of what people will do and be able to do when they're empowered by Brock. They will have, and so your individual, rather than trying to get these outliers jobs and give them handouts, be able to give them Brock, and they may create a company just with Brock that generates the output of 100 people. and therefore the tax revenues and the spending and supporting all the other businesses, and different types of businesses will get supported. There'll probably be more businesses in arts and entertainment and athletics and esports, and all of these types of things will likely grow as people have increased disposable income, those that are power users of, and it's not even, and they don't even need to have the level of genius that would be required to be a power user in days of old. They just will need to have access to Brock. And Brock will be their genius and will help each individual's genius to flourish. So that's some of the big things that I'm learning. Is there's a lot of excitement about Brock, and Spock becomes more like the plumbing, which is in many cases, except for the crypto aficionados who get this, and I think they're going to be coming in a big way not out of altruism, but purely from a profit motive, as they see the potential of this project that is at the leading edge of the things that are really being talked about more and more all the time. So there's multi-agent agentic swarms and machine-to-machine commerce and all of these things. They're not dying down at all. Now, crypto, I do hear, and actually, I think I feel like I'm well appreciated by if there are any Crypto Monday folks listening tonight. Thank you. I feel really appreciated in that group. I feel like I've found my tribe, and I feel like I'm bringing some extra energy and light and enthusiasm as well, because most other crypto projects have been kind of in the doldrums, and our plateau is nothing compared to what a lot of crypto has been going through. Bitcoin being down, and let me explain about that just real quickly. And I said it, and now I think Michael Saylor has said it a couple of times, and a number of other smart people have said this as well, that part of what we're seeing with the Bitcoin being far below the expectations that many of us had for this at this time, at this point in history, it's really easy to explain when you think about there's only so much. It's rapidly growing, but there's only so much money in the world, and we're in the world and the billionaires and the huge funds and that were buying into Bitcoin since with the ETFs and everything. They need to get into the latest IPOs, and of course, SpaceX being the biggest IPO in history, and those billions of dollars have to come from somewhere, and the most liquid place is Bitcoin, and so it's almost like cash, and so that's what you're seeing. So it's a temporary dip. Pardon me. While people are large, not people so much as faceless corporations and huge funds, but people as well, wealthy individuals, family offices, they're buying into these big IPOs that are bigger than ETFs, and the index funds. Many of these new IPOs go into the indexes, and so all the funds have to pile into these IPOs as well. So that's really, I think it's a supply demand thing more than anything, and there are other factors as well. And I think that there's some opportunism around the high table, because they really are still fighting Bitcoin. So Bitcoin has its enemies. Don't get me wrong. I'm not backing off on that at all. So the CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies that are being promoted by the Bank of International Settlements. They are toxic. They are the opposite of what we want. If you want freedom and self-sovereignty, it is a trap that gives authoritarian organizations and entities that have that impulse tremendous leverage to gain control more than ever. If Bitcoin doesn't win and if POCK doesn't win, I believe we will, and I think that as with every battle, there are ebbs and flows, but everything that's happening behind the scenes that you don't hear me talk about, I've been literally too busy to do both things, to be communicating. I can't be communicating everything, and the team even can't be communicating everything when there's so much other communication that has to occur. So there are going to be lots of cool tools that are going to be incorporated into SPOCK because into BROCK, because part of the Ingram evaluation matrix is knowing yourself and what your goals are, and so there's that. Really hard to separate personal development from that, as you getting to know yourself. And so there'll be some neat tools in BROCK that will, for those that want to go deep into achieving all of their financial goals and their life goals, there are some really cool tools that are being have to be incorporated into BROCK that are not seen anywhere else, based on the Enneagram, for example, that isn't you won't find it anywhere else. So a lot of novel intellectual property and a lot of interest and material things happening, and so let's do this again, and let's do some small amount or whatever amount you feel comfortable with. Let's get our wallets out and getting my wallet out right now. And I'm going to buy a little bit more of SPOCK, an amount that starts with 5. And so it's whether it's 500 or 5,000 or 50,000 or 500,000 SPOCK, try to add a number that starts with a 5 in front of your SPOCK, and we can see that we're all see who is participating and involved in this thought experiment, this morphogenetic experiment to see what can happen when we put our own personal interests aside just for a moment, and this amount that you're putting in right now should be an amount that you intend to leave there and for the benefit of the project and humanity. And of course, it's your money, and you could take it out whenever you want. But we want to everyone that's buying in these days, if I give them if they participate in the sharing and caring program, for example, I always tell them that this is something to hold. And I think a lot of the newbies, that's a lot of them, although I think we did lose some newbies when they saw 10,000% returns, they couldn't resist, and I think some of them liquidated, and they'll regret it, but have to buy in, and they probably will buy in again at a higher value in which they would have hung on to it. And everything that I'm saying is not investment advice. This is investment activism, as always. So So just putting an amount in right now. There we go. So thank you everyone for joining in the call today. And we are lots of exciting things happening. And but I'd like to keep it factual and balance the transparency with my obligations to respect non-disclosure agreements and things like that. So everything I've shared today, as I'm at liberty to do so, and it is, and you can if you do more research, you'll only get more excited. So I always encourage people to do your own research. So thanks everyone. Live long and prosper. We will talk soon again. Saturday at 8 a.m. for the and maybe I'll share some more on the development, maybe some screenshots and things like that before then, or on the call at 8 a.m. on Saturday, 8 a.m. Pacific time, so that people in the other hemisphere can participate. So thank you everyone. Live long and prosper.